It's the Raspy Voice Kids coming back at you once again. Brandon Phoenix, a.k.a. I Also Hate Pitt. And I'm here with my brother, my homeboy, my co-host.
JF always starts way too early every time. I'm here too. I'm ready to go.
And we got a special guest with us today. He's so special they gave him a blue check mark on Twitter. His name is Keenan Cummings from WVUsports.com. And he's going to bless us with his presence. He's going to talk to us about a bright spot, something that through all the turmoil, through all the frustration of a 7-6 season, has really gotten people excited about 2018. How are you doing, Keenan?
I'm good, and I think I am a better person for having that blue check mark. Isn't that how it's supposed to work?
I know that's how it works. I'm fighting tooth and nail to get one.
Good luck.
I know, man. Maybe you could put in a good word.
I don't think I have those powers. I think I was just randomly picked. I think that's how it works.
I don't believe that.
You know how it goes, man.
I do. But what I don't know is I don't know as much about the recruiting process as you do. This year, people are saying that West Virginia has possibly the greatest recruiting class in the history of WVU sports. Would you agree with that statement?
Tough to say on that front, but I can say unequivocally, as of today, they have the best recruiting class in the history of the internet recruiting era, which began around 2002 with Rivals. So a nice 15-some year span there that West Virginia has putting together their best class of all time. The one that currently sits at the top would be the 2013 class. It had Shelton Gibson and quite a few people. It actually finished 25th. This one is right now at 21st. So looking good for West Virginia. And you got to remember, they're going to add to this.
Yes, they are. We talked about that. Jace Rogers, Jack Boy. He's supposed to sign in February. Angus Davies out of Australia, right?
Yep.
Is there anybody?
Yeah, him and
anybody else I'm
Lee,
missing?
and then you're going to have some new guys too. They still have 5 spots left, and it's a lot of the fun's been taken out of it. We still got a ways to go, guys. It's kind of like a second Christmas for people that like recruiting.
The thing I want to ask you is you were talking about the 2013 recruiting class. Can you remind me who recruited that class? Who was the head coach?
Dana Holgerson.
Oh, Dana Holgerson was. Okay. So it'll be
right.
In the 15 years of recruiting since it's been, followed on the internet, Dana Holgerson will have put the two best in the history of West Virginia as far as that time span goes. I just want to make that clear because there's a lot of confusion. The other thing there's confusion about, and maybe you can help us with this, Keenan.
I think I see what you're doing there.
Well, I don't know. I'm just talking.
Just clarify what it is.
What the question I have is, I've been in conversations with different people when we talk about recruiting, and there's so many people who feel that West Virginia is not at a geographic disadvantage when it comes to recruiting. And my opinion is that we are. I say often we're at a geographic and state economic disadvantage when it comes to recruiting. Am I wrong?
That's rubbish. Not that you're wrong. It's rubbish that anyone would think otherwise. I mean, you got to look at it this way, guys. West Virginia is a small state to begin with. And while talent is getting better here, that more players are coming out, West Virginia is taking advantage of that. Look at a state like Florida. They have, I think it's 47 4-star players this year alone. West Virginia has not produced 47 4-star players, I think, since 2002. I don't think it's even close. I think they have about 5. I don't think they've produced 42 3-star players. I'd have to check that to be sure, but you got to look at it this way, guys. A lot of people, I understand most people out there listening immediately are going to go to this line. Well, you got all this talent around you in Ohio and Pennsylvania and Maryland and D.C. Yeah, you do. I can't argue that, but you got to look at it this way too, guys. Every single player that West Virginia goes to try to recruit in any of those states, they are automatically, unless there's some family attachment or some reason that it wouldn't be true, going to start second. You're going to start second because those kids grew up rooting for someone else. So you got to go into a territory and try to fight off teams, and it's not easy. I know a lot of people think you can just show up, flash the flying WV, and everything's going to be good. Recruiting takes relationships. It takes a lot of work. There is a lot more involved than a lot of people understand.
No, that's how I feel. What you just said is 100% the truth. You would know better than me. It's been my opinion. It's been my observation, but you know that to be a fact. The other thing
The kids will tell you that, man. I mean, they'll tell you that it starts with relationships, and if you don't have those built-in relationships to begin with, take Alex Williams for example, the kid that flipped. Well, they knew about it. I mean, didn't come as a surprise, but take him for example. I mean, the kid grew up rooting for Ohio State. He would have stuck with West Virginia under any other circumstance, but the school that he grew up loving, grew up rooting for, wanted him at the last minute, and he wanted to go with it. And you can't fault a kid for doing that, but that is just one example. But that's just exactly what I'm talking about.
But that's just like Darius Stills, when we can have that home field advantage. But like you said, it's so far and few between, a lot less than some of these bigger states.
Well, the other problem is states like Ohio, states like Pennsylvania, they're producing less talent than they did in the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s because of geographic shifts, right?
Yeah, it depends.
Population shifts.
Yeah, it's cyclical. Some years you'll have a lot of kids. Some years not so many. This was a down year in Western Pennsylvania for the most part. A couple of years ago, it was loaded. So you're going to have years where it's good, years that it's bad. Where West Virginia makes its hay is finding the players that fit its scheme, and I think they do an excellent job doing that for the most part. There's some positions we could talk about, might need to get better, but I do think that West Virginia finds guys that fits their scheme. Let's just say a guy like Quantel Raines, for example. He's not really a safety. He's not really a linebacker, but he is a perfect spur. He fits that position exactly.
I believe we referred to him as a dog.
Yeah, I think that's the term the kids are throwing around these days.
Yep.
Man, I love this. I love this, man. I've wanted to have this dude on for a while. I look at you as one of the lead authorities when it comes to recruiting. Like, I look at your stuff. You're always cutting edge. So if you're listening, we're going to get to where you can find Keenan at. But I love that you're here dropping this knowledge, the stuff that we as ordinary fans, we don't get into. We don't get to see behind the screens. So being able to give us this knowledge and let us see this insight, I love it.
Thanks a lot, man. I'm glad at least one person likes me. I have a fan somewhere. That's good to know.
Well, one of the things I like that West Virginia's been doing, and you've been talking about this, is we've been getting JUCOs, we've been getting transfers, but now we're making a foray into Georgia, which is not something we've done traditionally. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
They did it a little bit the year before when Blue Adams was here, but a lot of that has to do with Doug Belk. He has a ton of connections down there. It's kind of what I went back to when I opened this up. It's about relationships, and he's got a lot of relationships there, obviously from there, recruits there. So and a lot of those kids will leave. It's a lot like Florida without the headache. And by that, I mean, kids aren't necessarily flipping at the last minute as much. There's not as much drama. I think it's just they raise kids in Florida to do that. I'm not sure why, but there's always drama. I'm telling you what, guys, if you ever want to get into recruiting, just follow South Florida recruiting cycles. You'll probably be sick of it about 2 weeks later.
Yeah,
but
most people in America try to avoid Florida unless it's vacation, though, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do love myself a good Florida vacation.
Yeah, but besides that, man, we all know the stories about Florida man and Florida woman. So, I'm glad that West Virginia is expanding and adapting. One of the other criticisms that I wanted to get your opinion on: people will not leave Dana Holgorsen alone for not being able to recruit a high school quarterback that's panned out. And to me, that is a legitimate criticism, something that we did not expect when we brought Dana in, being an offensive guru. What's happened?
It's just about guys developing. It's simple as that. I mean, you target guys every class, and for the most part, they've gotten the guys they feel comfortable with. And you look down the list. They didn't turn out, obviously. David Sills was a highly regarded quarterback, had a lot of offers. William Crest had a lot of offers. So it's not like other schools aren't recruiting these guys. I think Chris Jugganoff he had quite a few offers. But Chugs is the one that really doesn't fit that category, but he also came to camp and put on a show. I was there, threw the football all over the yard, looked really good. I didn't have a problem with that at the time. I think the problem is when they get here, I don't know where the disconnect is, because obviously Dana can develop quarterbacks. Look what he did for Clint Trickett. Look what he did for even Geno Smith, especially Skylar Howard. I mean, look at his game one to last game. I know people out there might have their qualms about some of the things Skylar did, but there's no denying he improved dramatically over his career. I can't put my finger on it. I really can't. I've had people ask me this a lot. I don't know. Jake Spavital is the same way. He's developed quarterbacks. Dana Holgerson's developed quarterbacks. It just hasn't happened here. But I do think one thing that people get caught up on way too much is the high school aspect of that. I think as long as you have a good quarterback, you're fine. I think you'd like to develop guys over years, but I don't think anybody was complaining about this when Will Grier was out there throwing touchdown passes and starting every game.
Amen.
That's how I feel. I say as long as you got
Amen.
As long as you got a guy slinging the rock, that's all I care about. And I feel like we have that in Jack Allison. I feel like now here's another question for you. There are people who are saying Trey Lowe is William Kress 2.0.
No, I definitely disagree with that. I think Trey Lowe has a lot more to offer at this point. You love his size. He needs to work on his throwing motion a little bit. I do agree with that. But he doesn't have a lot of bad habits. And, guys, that's hard to break. If you got bad habits, it's hard to break them. And he could be molded. I think he's definitely a guy that's going to take some time. But I think that's the kind of quarterback you were going to get in this class. You're not going to be able to, cherry pick every quarterback you want. But it speaks to his potential and what type of player he can be that all these schools tried to get in late on him.
Yes.
He had 4 or 5 SEC schools. I know he had North Carolina down his neck. A lot of schools were trying to get involved late with him, and even some in the summer, but especially late because you don't find very many guys that are 6'3", have that athleticism, and have that much raw ability. But we're going to go back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago, guys. It's about developing. You will see how he's developed. You hope that he's the guy that breaks this trend because it's a trend that honestly is somewhat haunted Dana's career here.
I feel like it's more than somewhat. I feel like if you put Will, one of the things that worried me that I kept thinking, there was a kid out of Athens, Ohio, which is near where I live, named Joe Burrow, who West Virginia recruited. And he ended up going to Ohio State. I don't know how close we got to him. I don't know, but I always felt like
not very.
If we landed a kid like him and he was running our offense last year instead of Skylar, I feel like we go undefeated. And it's not because I don't like Skylar's work ethic, not because I don't like how hard he worked, not because he didn't improve. He just wasn't. Skylar is not the prototype for this offense, right?
I agree. The one they're running right now, absolutely. Last year, he fit that pretty well, but I do agree with you. I think he had limitations. I think he played past those limitations pretty well for the most part. But I agree with you. You look at the results on offense, at least offense this year, not as a whole package, with what Will Grier was able to do, and all the way they can basically open up the playbook.
So everybody's talking about Letty Brown, Quantel Raines, Dante Stills. Who do you think is going to surprise fans the most?
Yeah, that's a question I've been waiting for.
I got 2 guys, and I've had these 2 from the start, but I feel like one of them's kind of cheap now since it got out. I'll just get this one out of the way first. One is Michael Laughlin. Love that kid's tape. I think that he is the guy that West Virginia's been searching for several years now. He's that mismatch, can play a lot of different positions. More of a tight end body right now. He's going to be a tight end, but he's more of a wide receiver. He's going to grow into that. He has athleticism, high points of the football. I think the thing that impresses me is he's a natural pass catcher. And a lot of guys, it sounds kind of insane because you watch the NFL and everybody's 6'5" and can run and catch. But that's not natural, guys. It's hard to get those.
I know 6'5" guys are normally pretty goofy.
Yeah, he is a natural pass catcher. I think the reason he went under-recruited to start with is the fact that he's a basketball kid. Plays basketball, didn't go to a lot of camps. A lot of people didn't see him. You got to credit West Virginia for getting on him, getting him locked up, because it speaks, once again, volumes to what type of player he is that Ohio State came in late and tried to get him to take an official visit and offered him. That's high praise on the recruiting trail. Second one for me, and anyone that's followed me on the website, they know who I'm going to say before I even say it, Sam James. Absolutely love that kid.
That's who I like.
He came up for a camp, and he dominated in a way that I haven't seen at a camp since Ryan Switzer at the 7-on-7 when he was a high school kid.
Wow.
He was unguardable. No one was able to stay in front of him. And the thing that impressed me about this kid is he's not just a track guy. He is a football player with track speed. He's going to need to work on route running, but still, he's not a guy that's just going to go long every play. You're not going to have You're not just going to throw deep passes to him. He can actually run some intermediate routes.
You almost said a name.
I did. I was going to make a joke. The worst part is I was going to make a joke, and I completely forgot what I was going to say. Uncle Rico was what I'm talking about. Throw a mountain from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, I got you.
I thought, but I feel like I know what name you were going to say, but go ahead.
But I think the thing that really kind of blew me away, guys, is the fact that he had so much concentration and agility going up and trying to get the football. That he jumped over several people. He mossed several people at this camp, and I'm just sitting there the whole time thinking, "Wow, this kid's really good." I knew he was fast. Yeah, I knew he could run. I knew he could catch, but he surprised me at how well he could play wide receiver. Now, once again, this was a camp. They weren't in pads. It wasn't a real football game. But in that aspect, I was pretty blown away. I think they found a gem in him.
That's awesome. That's the kind of stuff we want. That's the kind of stuff we need, especially in the Big 12 running the offense Dana likes to run that Spav has been calling. Keenan, Jeremy, do you have any questions for him?
Yeah. Do you get to interact with these kids, or are you just there to observe them at the camps and whatnot?
Not much at the camps, but I definitely get to interact with them a lot. Day to day. I get to know them pretty well. A lot of these guys, West Virginia started recruiting pretty early on. Some of them pop up, but you get to know them. You get to know their families, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So they talk about, a lot of times you'll hear people and they'll talk about a kid, like after they become a star, they'll say, I knew from the first moment I met him. He just had this presence, Have you met any kids that you've stood by him and you thought to yourself, this kid is going to be a star? If it's from this class, it'd be great. But if it's been past classes, have you been able to get that feel from anybody?
Absolutely. One that I had, and I don't want to say I took some flack for it, but people kind of questioned me, was Wendell Smallwood.
Oh,
I thought he had it from the time I met him. I thought that he was going to be a really good player. My question with him is, it seemed like he was timid at times when he first started getting carries. Once he got past that and just started running, he looked like the Letty that I saw, or Les. I'm calling him Letty. Looked like the one. I get those two confused so much because they're so similar. I mean, you watch tape of him. The only difference is Letty's a little bit taller and Wendell's a little bit bigger now. But I watched the tape on Wendell and I saw some impressive things. But then I saw him in person at camp and I was pretty blown away. I never got to see an actual football game, which kind of sucked. But I just felt like he was going to be a star. I thought West Virginia got a big-time guy out of him. I really liked Al-Rashid Benton when he was in high school as well. I think he obviously played into that. And the final guy for me, and I was toting this guy's horn big time and looked like a genius. Well, these two actually look like a genius now, but at the time I was, kind of going out on a limb. Carl Joseph, I loved his tape. A lot of people thought he was too small. I thought he was perfect for what West Virginia could do. He wasn't a linebacker. He could play safety. Played linebacker in high school. But the thing that blew me away about him was his pursuit. Where he impressed me in college is how he developed playing the football. He was always a hitter. He could always tackle. He didn't have the best hands, but, man, by the time he graduated, he impressed. And last one was Kevin White. I'll never forget writing my commitment 101 is what we call it about him. And I was raving about him like he was going to be a first-round NFL draft pick because I just loved the tools he had.
And you were spot
I didn't
on.
know if he would. Well, I wouldn't say that. I didn't know if he'd ever figure it out because he had to figure it out, but obviously he did.
Who's better, Kaiser or Kevin?
Oh man, that's tough. I don't want either of them to beat me up. I'm gonna take a tie.
I say Kaiser, man. I say Kaiser.
I like Kaiser's physical element, but I kind of like the way Kevin had that brashness about him. They both talk. It's funny how Karan is nothing like them in terms of how brash they both are. Even when I got to know those guys pretty well, and I remember I actually broke the news about Kevin coming on his visit, and that's the first time I'd ever met him because he kind of came out of nowhere. If you guys remember, I don't know if you guys remember back then, but that year, West Virginia basically went from not even having a JUCO wide receiver on the radar to him visiting, and then a couple of days later committing. And I got to know him, and then obviously I got to know his brothers through the process. And it's kind of crazy that they all ended up here. I always thought they would, but I had there were some fleeting feelings about Kaiser. I thought maybe he might go out to to USC, but it's crazy how different they are.
No, go ahead, Brandon.
No, are you done?
No. I want to know. Look, and maybe I'm wrong. And I've not talked to anybody. This is my own personal feelings. I look at video from Jace Rogers, and I feel like I told Brandon he kind of reminds me a little bit of Pac-Man, where he's undersized, but he's feisty, not scared of anything, but he has that raw, natural talent. Am I wrong? Am I way off? Or does he need some development?
If by wrong you mean I wrote that exact same thing.
Did you? See? See?
No, Keenan.
Yeah.
Keenan.
Yeah.
No, Keenan, don't feel a kinship. That means he didn't read your article.
Yeah, I know. That was going to be my next point.
I listened to the sweet spot. Look, I listened to the sweet spot. I knew that you're going to say Sam James.
There you go. I like that.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll take all the fans I can get.
See, we're back to brothers now. We're back to brothers. All right. So that's what you see in Jace Rogers. I'll let you continue.
I do not want to put unrealistic expectations on the kid by any means, but I see that same fight. I think that's what endeared Pac-Man to West Virginia fans.
Yep.
He wasn't afraid to throw his head in there. Everybody remembers what happened with Kellen Winslow.
Yep.
He's a guy that just was fearless, and I see that same thing. I think a lot of schools passed on him or thought he was too small. And yes, you worry about height. You do, especially in a league like the Big 12 that's running out those 6'4" guys I was talking about earlier. But he's got it.
He kind of reminds me of Jerome Swinton too, who went out to USC, undersized guy, really athletic and feisty.
Yeah, I remember him well. West Virginia thought they were probably going to get him until the last minute. USC decided to get involved.
All right, I got another question for you. First of all, you just made my day. By the way, how secure is Jace Rogers? Because it didn't make me feel so good that I see all these people signing, and of course now I have to wait to February and see if homeboy comes here.
It's fine. It's more of a numbers issue at this point. They'll get it worked out. He is still solid in his pledge.
Good. All right. My last question I have for you is, like I said, I look to you as the authority. I feel like when it comes to recruiting, you're one of the people I look to. My question to you is, if you didn't do this, if you weren't the one out there recruiting, if you weren't the one out there writing, who would you look to be the authority on West Virginia recruiting?
Are you kidding me? You're asking him to name his competition?
I don't know.
Had you gave it a second, maybe he'd have just answered.
I'm trying to help the man. He's our friend. He's on friend of the show.
Wait till he needs help. Give him a second. I know. Maybe he will just jump in.
I think that there are, honestly, when I started this, it's kind of weird. There weren't very many people doing this. A lot of people kind of followed it, which my whole backstory is kind of weird to begin with. I mean, I was a member of the message boards when I was like 13 years old and started doing this for free, pretty much, and just followed it by myself. I built my own like recruiting hot boards and all kinds of stuff because it really interested me. And, I grew up in West Virginia, obviously grew up a big West Virginia fan when I was a kid and, went to a lot of games. So I found a way to, I guess, stay involved with it all year round. So when I first started, there wasn't a lot of people that were doing this. There was Blue Gold News, and then there was the rival site. And now there's just so many people that do it. It's kind of crazy to me that I don't know. It's kind of nostalgic in a sense that I see all these people getting involved with it, and some of them will do it for free. I mean, there's some sites out there that just do it for free, and it reminds me of myself. But there's so many people out there now. I think obviously you'd have to think the two bigger guys, Blue Gold News, the 24/7 site, that they're going to do a good job. I think obviously I'm going to definitely self-promote myself. I think that we do an excellent job. I think anybody that's a member of the site would say that. But I don't know if I really have an authority by any means. I think that there's just a lot of people out there that do it. I think that it's crazy just how much it's evolved to me, how much fans seem to care about it even more now. And just, I don't know, since I've been doing this since 2011 as a job. And I think that in those years, the amount of people that are just completely passionate about it and over the top with it, and it's crazy to me how much it's grown. Recruiting is an industry now. I mean, you can have guys, I obviously cover the team too and do a lot of other things, but you have guys out there that do nothing but recruiting and make a living off of it.
Yeah.
Just covering recruiting.
All right. Well, if that's Jeremy's last question, We got to ask you the questions we ask all our guests.
Uh-oh.
What is the best flavor of Pop-Tart?
Strawberry with frosting.
Look at that.
You're wrong, but okay.
Best fast food French fry.
Rallies or Checkers?
All right.
Oh for 2. By the way, I'm pure brown sugar, team brown sugar. But go ahead, Brandon.
And we're also team McDonald's when it comes to the fries. But final question. What is the better kid movie? The Lion King or Toy Story?
The Lion King.
My dude.
See?
My dude.
Maybe we shouldn't have had you on, Keenan.
That one's not even close.
Oh, thank you. Brandon is very on Team Toy Story. I'm trying to let him know there's no comparison. It's Lion King forever.
Well, it was going to be Siskel and Phoenix, but they switched to Siskel and Ebert at the last second. So I just have a higher sense of talent and quality. So maybe that's what it is.
Did you really go with that cheesy now?
I'm just speaking facts.
Come on.
I was going to ask him that too. That seemed a little. That was worse than me botching the Uncle Rico joke.
That was bad. That was bad.
Y'all gonna leave me alone. Well, thank you, Keenan. Thank you so much for coming on. Again, guys, Keenan Cummings from WVUsports.com. You want to check him out. Obviously, an aficionado, excellent work. Provides us with so much great information. If you're a Mountaineer fan, you got to be following him. Your name is Rivals Keenan on Twitter, correct?
Correct.
Rivals Keenan. Follow him there. We want to thank you again. This is going to be out on YouTube. It'll be on iTunes. We put it out on Facebook, so you can let all your fans know where they can find you.
And the best news is people won't have to see me, like on the Sweet Spot podcast.
We'll do something special.
Have to endear that. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Come on anytime.
All right.